Our goal is to do things that no other law firm has ever done before.
Our technology brings the future to you today.
We're the next era in the way legal transactions are handled.
Perfect. Okay, everybody, thank you so much for joining us. I actually have a special guest. His name is Andrew Foliato, and I always say it wrong, so he'll correct me how to actually say it. And I'll let him do an intro on his business, but him and I have connected a couple years ago. He's a public speaker, I'm a public speaker. We pretty much cover the same stuff, but with a little bit different fashion. And so he has, I'll let him explain his program, but from my perspective, he has a done-for-you Facebook marketing campaign is just one of many products that he does. And today he's going to be sharing with us, and we're going to have just like a live discussion. So he's going to be sharing the tools that he uses to automate his real estate business. And then during that, I'm going to pepper in my ideas as well. And just so you know, he has the privilege and good fortune of just having a new baby. So there's a possibility we might hear that in the background.
Oh,
so
she's
Andrew,
out of the house.
Oh, nice. Okay,
Yeah.
so we're just going to hear you. Cool. Okay, so Andrew, why don't you go on about yourself, and then we'll get into the automation of the real estate business.
Sure. So my name is Andrew Foliato. He actually got my name pretty close this time.
Nice.
Yeah, it's only been a couple of years. We're bound to get it right eventually. So I was an agent for a couple of years in a little town north of Toronto, and then I ended up doing training. So I built my business online. So one of the brands recruited me to do training for them. So I ended up traveling mostly Ontario, Atlantic Canada, but all over North America, training agents on the online side of the business. But then every time I was doing that, people kept asking, can we just hire you to do it for us? So I ended up starting a digital agency that specializes in real estate agents called Just Sell Homes. The idea being you just focus on selling homes, we'll handle everything online for you. So we just get our clients just hand off what they don't want to deal with to us, which right now is mostly Facebook ads.
Nice.
Yeah, and we've set up some, which is how the automation came up, is we also set up automation for a lot of clients as well to save them some time.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so share some of the tools that you use to make that happen and the stories behind it.
Yeah, so there's a ton of different tools, and we'll get into a lot of them in the actual webinar itself. So like we have a lot of slides coming up sharing some of the different tools, big ones being like Zapier, Gmail, things like that, but they're coming up pretty soon to talk about.
Okay, so yeah, let's get started. Hop on.
Sounds good. So the first one, just talking about like what automation is, what it isn't. There's a big misconception with automation when you're talking about real estate where people think that it's something that's going to take away from the client experience, to give you less time with your clients. When in reality, if you're doing automation the right way, it's actually freeing up more of your time to spend with your clients. So that's really the goal, is take away a lot of those kind of mind-numbing, dull tasks that are repetitive and kind of easy, and letting that be an automated process. So just like, data entry, things like that. Those aren't things that you need to do yourself, or really any person needs to do a lot of the time. If you know the right tools, that can be automated. Like I was just talking to an agent yesterday who he gets about 600-700 leads a month through his website, and he was manually adding every single lead to a Facebook custom audience at the end of the month.
Yeah.
And you can just get a tool that'll just automate that for you. You never have to look at it again. Like it's a much easier process.
I think a lot of people can experience that pain because even if they're not getting 600 leads a month, even if like they'll get a lead from their franchise, they'll get a lead from the MLS, they'll get a lead from like a classified website, they'll get a lead from their own personal website. So they're getting leads from multiple sources, but then they have to go and copy and paste and put it into their database.
Exactly, and that's the type of thing you don't actually need to spend time doing. And once you add all those up, you end up saving a lot of time. Now, one of the things with automation is it's a big time investment up front. You got to take time to learn what you can automate, how to automate it, what tools to use. But once you've spent a little bit of time up front, it's going to save you a ton later on. Like it might take you an hour to figure out how to automate a task that's like a 10-minute task that you do every week, but over time, that's a huge amount of savings once you start adding up all those tasks. And the more you automate, the quicker every automation becomes to implement after that. Because once you know the process, like once you know how to use Zapier, which we'll talk about in a minute, the first time, yeah, it might take you a little bit longer. Then after that, you know how it works. It's a lot quicker to start saving time on all these subsequent tasks. And you'll realize how many different things you never actually needed to spend your own time on.
Yeah.
It's crazy the amount of time you can save. And it's these incremental savings that keep adding up to free up a lot of your time. So we're not talking about here's one task that's going to save 2 hours every single day necessarily, but it's, this task took you 5 minutes, this one took you 10, this one took you 15, this other one was 5. Those all add up throughout the day to save you a lot of time. So it's not like, oh, now I can take off 2 days every week. It's not like that type of way. It's just it saves you a lot more time to spend with your clients, or even if you'd rather spend it with your family, spend it prospecting. Just gives you time to do more stuff that's important to you and to your business, and eliminates a lot of the kind of not as important work that needs to get done. One of the things I like to always talk about is the importance of Google Apps. So most automation tools integrate with Google Apps. So like if you're using your email, if you use the branded version of Gmail, it's the best thing to use. It's $5 a month. Like my email, andrew@justsellhomes.com, is built on Google Apps, so I get the Gmail interface. Integrates with my CRM, integrates with every tool that I use. It's amazing. So if you're going to use an email system, I would definitely recommend the Google Apps for Business. If you're going to use like one of the free ones, like if you're a Hotmail or Outlook or something like that before, at least use the Gmail one because you'll get more. But I always recommend a branded email address because it's so cheap and you can still get all the benefits of it. It's only $5 a month.
Yeah, and when you pay that $5 a month, so if you don't know, if people are listening and they want Gmail for Business, you just Google search Gmail for Business or Google for Business. It'll come right up. It's $5 a month. Once you're a paying customer, you actually get a toll-free phone number, and they will share a computer screen with you and help you set it up. So like mine is coaching@danwood.ca. It's actually Gmail. And so I had to spend the time to get all that connected, and it was nice to have a live person walking me through the whole process.
Yeah, the Google's actually really good for support if you're paying them.
Yes. Yeah.
Otherwise, it can be a pain, kind of like Facebook.
And also, if people missed it, the biggest benefit isn't just that. It's the fact that everything integrates with Google. Like my calendar tools, a whole bunch of the tools and programs that I use directly integrate with Google. And if anything is going to integrate with any email, Google's the first on the list.
Yeah, that's what all the developers use and everything. So every integration always starts with Google. So always highly recommend it. I normally save like the tools that I use till the end, but there's one that just always comes up when we talk about automation, so it's better to talk about it at the beginning. That's mainly Zapier. If you've never used or Zapier, I'm not sure which one. I guess it depends on the person. It's like GIF and GIF. But then there's also IFTTT, which is a competitor of Zapier, but Zapier is definitely the most popular one. Basically what they do is they automate little tasks. So if, for instance, you could set up a Zap that anytime an email comes in with an attachment, automatically saves it to Google Drive. So, you're getting emails in with offers all the time. Instead of having to manually download it and save it, it can just automatically do that for you. Or if you don't want it to save every attachment, because you get a lot of non-save worthy attachments, you can just say, anytime I favorite an email, automatically save the attachments to it. It's that little step that, it's a couple minutes here and there that it's saving you over time is going to help out a lot. And there's a ton of different examples of ones you can do, which we'll go over a lot more as we're talking about all the automation stuff. But from an automation side of it, Zapier is one of the best things.
So Zapier basically is like the copy and paste. If something happens, say somebody fills in a form on your website, Zapier will take that name, phone number, and email, and then add them to your MailChimp account, and then add them to your database, and then add them to your CSV file. Like it'll just automate that. Whatever your system is, you just have to set up the timeline, and then once it's triggered, it takes care of everything going forward.
Yeah, exactly. And at the bottom, there's a link there. You can get 100 free Zaps a month, bit.ly/GoZapier. Yep. That's a link from Dan that works really well. And most of you won't go over 100 free ones a month.
Yeah.
And then there's also, when you're talking about automation, there's basic automation versus advanced automation. We're going to be talking more today on the kind of basic side, which is those simple copy and pasting ones. You can get really into advanced workflows, and we'll touch on it briefly. But there's so many different levels of automation to the point that you could almost automate every piece of what you're doing, but it gets it's a lot of money to set up, different things like that. So we'll kind of touch briefly on what some of the advanced ones are. We're going to focus a lot more on the basic side of the automation, which is where it's better to get started anyways, because you don't want to jump right into the full automation before you've even tried the basic stuff.
Right. Oh, yeah. Baby steps.
Yeah. And it's not as simple as just set it and forget it. I mean, some of the basic ones are, but it's important to remember when you're setting up the automations, you want to check that they're working and make sure that nothing changes, doesn't break. So from time to time, you're still going to go in, check on it, make sure it's working. But instead of spending a couple hours a week doing these things, maybe you spend 5 to 10 minutes just to double check and make sure everything's working properly. Because of the odd time, one program just stops talking to another all that well, but that's rare. It's very, very rare. But you still want to be on top of it to a degree to make sure it's working the way that you want it to.
That and almost anything that's automated, you should set yourself up to get the automations. Like a good example would be a real estate agent commonly will have some sort of follow-up plan for their buyer leads. And it'll be like a 3-month, 6-month, 8-month follow-up plan. Well, maybe on month 4, they ended up selling them the home, and that agent forgot to take that person off of that automation. Now the automation on month 5 is going to send them a email that says, hey, are you thinking of buying a home? And they're going to reply back and be like, yeah, we just did. And they'll think you're an idiot. So automation can be a pretty dark spot if you're not on top of it. So it definitely is not a set it and forget it. You have to, and if it is, set yourself up so that you get alerted as if you're the consumer's perspective on things.
Agreed completely. It's a great tool, but you still got to know how to kind of use it the right way. But I always recommend once you know how to set up automations to use it because it is so effective. You can also automate a lot of your social media. And I don't mean to specifically pick on City Blast here, but they're kind of the big one for automating social media. To me, that's not the right way to automate it because it does lose a lot of that personal touch that really is effective online. Where tools like Meet Edgar and Hootsuite, it's the type of automation where it's just saving you a lot of time. So as an example, I used to schedule all my posts for the week Monday morning over 30 to 45 minutes. So instead of having to post every day, I would just do that once. And that to me was a lot more effective than doing, hiring someone just to say, do these posts, I'm never going to go and check it. Because I know some people who hire a company like City Blast and they've never looked at their social media thinking that it's completely automated. When really the right automation for social media is put those posts out for you, but you should still be going and checking. You should still go and respond to people. That's how social media can be a lot more effective.
I saw one, I won't say the company, it was City Blast related, but a company like that, and say they have thousands of agents where they're posting on behalf of those agents. Well, they posted a landing page going to a new home builder. Well, what happens if the consumer off the street clicks on that, goes through the home builder? You think that agent's getting paid? They totally leveraged all of the agents to get that message in front of everybody. So I don't like the idea of somebody creating the content for you unless they know what they're doing and they're doing it on your best behalf.
I agree completely.
And yeah, those automated ones, not too hot.
Yeah. And a lot of you are already using some form of automation in your business. And obviously the most obvious is with your listing notifications. That's what happens. Imagine you had to go in every single day and pull up every single listing to send to every single buyer. That's a lot of time that would take. So you're having it automated for the most part where it just automatically sends those listings for you. It's not that much different than the rest of the automations are going to do in terms of time saving and convenience. It's just about figuring out what are the right ones and how are they going to work within your business.
Yeah.
And you'll start building workflows. So this is when you start getting a bit more into the advanced stuff where people can be, okay, if they go here, it brings them here, it brings them here, and you start mapping it out. So what I recommend if you're going to start going into like workflow building when you're doing ads is to actually truly understand where that journey is. So start at the beginning and write it down. Like grab a piece of paper, a whiteboard, a chalkboard, whatever you want, and draw out the entire flow. So like that's what we did here with this one is we essentially drew out how is this going to work. And then have a few people go through your test and check how it went. Like I know this one in particular you see on the screen, we had to make a few adjustments as we were going based on how people ended up going through our workflow. Because how we thought they went through, how we thought they'd interact ended up being differently than they actually did. So you got to make those changes to make sure it happens the right way.
Yeah, and it's all automation is very linear. Once you have it set, it's like awesome, but you do have to set the kind of like domino effect.
Yeah. And then you learn, okay, this piece makes this one go and this one, and just you keep going from there but once you figure out, you save so much time down the road. But there is that, like we mentioned before, the time investment up front. So at the beginning, you start at the end. So, okay, what's my goal of this workflow that I'm building? And you write it at the end. I like to use paper or whiteboards. We say, okay, here's the goal we're getting to at the end. And then we go back to the beginning. Who's our target audience? And then we essentially fill in the in-between from here's our target audience, here's what we want them to do, how are we going to get them there? And we start mapping out that workflow. And sometimes you have a lot of different branches coming off of it, and it takes that time. Then you launch it. And then you start looking at, okay, how do the different segments of it work? And we're going to rate them, see, okay, how effective is it? Maybe I want to take out this piece and move it over there. That's when you start getting really into the advanced stuff. But at the beginning, just think about where do I want this person to get to, or what do I want this task to become? Where does it start? How do we get there? And you map that out and then go to implement it. Because if you don't have it mapped out ahead, you might get lost kind of during the implementation phase.
Oh, yeah. I always bullet point in a Word document.
Yeah, it's the best way to do it. I got to the point where even without techie, like I try to be sometimes, I end up doing it kind of the old-fashioned way with pens and paper and all that, because it just ends up, for me, working out a lot better.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Whiteboards, stuff like that. But it all works out in the end. So there's 4 main types of automation. You're going to look at automation that helps you manage all your leads. There's going to be some that help you manage your client and customer experience, help you manage the relationships with your past clients and just general relationships in your sphere of influence. There's going to be ones that are going to be huge time savings, especially in the operations of your business, so like the processes you use, the systems you're using, all of that. That's where you're going to find a ton of potential time savings. So the first one we're talking about is the lead management. So in lead management, the most basic ones you can think of would be like if you're running a campaign, just have it auto deliver the lead magnets. So as an example, like the one you see there, it's just like a lead and they opt in to get a guide. They opt in and it automatically emails it to them. Because imagine every single lead you had to go into your computer, pull out of the hard drive, a copy of the guide, and manually send it to everybody there. That's okay if you're getting like 1 lead a month. But if you're getting anything more, like you want us to have that little piece automated for you so it automatically goes out to them and it gets to them right away. And then you could also have an auto response. So as soon as they opt in, it automatically sends them a response as well, just to kind of keep them engaged a little bit until you have time to talk to them. And then automatically enter it into your CRM too. Like it's such a small thing, but it's a lot of people we talk to, they have a CRM and they have a database and they don't always connect the two regularly. Like sometimes it's like, oh, I just pay my assistant once every 3 months to go and input all these names and stuff I got. Well, if you can just automate that process, it's going to always be up to date. So I always recommend using the tools that are just going to, everything that happens talks to each other and automates. Big ones, lead follow-up reminders. So mentioned before, it doesn't necessarily take away from the person-to-person stuff, but what it can do is help remind you to follow up with people. So you get a new lead, and instead of it automatically emailing them necessarily or automatically doing all these different things, What it will automate is essentially your workflow of what you have to do. So maybe it says right away, call them, and then it reminds you 2 days, call them again. 3 days after that, call them again, email them. And you can just kind of get up every day and say, okay, here's what my CRM is telling me are the different tasks for today. And you can just knock them off without having to remember every single time what to do.
So a lot of people have different CRMs, and they might not have that ability or know how, even if they do. I suggest people take a look at AgileCRM, and I guess we'll put a link up after because I don't have it on the screen. But AgileCRM, it integrates with Zapier. So you could automate a whole bunch of things directly with Zapier. So you get a lead, it'll put them on the right follow-up plan, it'll send them the confirmation email, and then it will trigger off your to-dos. And you would just preset what your to-dos are. Call them every other week, send a handwritten note, like whatever your follow-up is. So this screen right here, what Andrew's talking about, some people may not have this ability, and if you don't, look at AgileCRM, because Agile starts off at a free price point, and then it goes up to like $8 a month, which is really affordable.
Yeah, it's a great tool if you don't have a CRM especially, or you want to start getting into this stuff, because it's free for the most part, and you get up to 10 users, so even a small team can get on it. It's wonderful.
Yep.
This is a big one. I always let Dan talk about this one because he certainly uses it, I think, even more than I do. So why don't you talk about Boomerang?
Sure. Okay, yeah. Boomerang for Gmail is an add-on. So you have to be using Gmail for it to work. It's a Gmail add-on. Anyways, if you Google search Boomerang for Gmail, it'll come right up. And I've been using it for years now, flawlessly. The website itself looks pretty poor. If you just go to Boomerang for Gmail, it doesn't look like too high-tech. But the product itself works. So you can see those arrows, they're pointing to the Boomerang in his Gmail here. So there's a couple different ways you can use it. If you get an internet lead or an email today and you call that person, you can just hit the Boomerang button and it will remove it from your inbox and then boomerang it back to when you say. So you could say boomerang this back in 2 hours, 2 days, or 2 weeks, or a month, and then it will remove it from your inbox, and then in 2 hours, or whatever you set, it will reappear as a new message in your inbox. And so that's a really great way to help manage and maintain your sanity with your email, because sometimes you'll get an email and you don't necessarily want to open it because you know as soon as you open it, you have to deal with it, and it's like a 20-minute process of whatever it is. And you're like, oh, and you put it off, and then you forget about it. Well, with Boomerang, you just click the Boomerang button, it'll disappear and then reappear to remind you, like, oh yeah, I got to do that. That's one example. Boomerang also has a feature that allows you to send later. So you could type an email out now and have it send out on a later date. So how we would use that would be if we have a home that's closing next Thursday, we would send them an email to go out the day before on the Wednesday, and we would make a video and send them a video and say, like, hey guys, super excited you're moving in tomorrow. Don't forget you got to check all the appliances and the furnace and the air conditioner and the washing machine, the dishwasher. Just check all that, make sure it works. Let me know if there's any issues. And I set up a time for pizza is being delivered between 12 o'clock and 1 o'clock. And then I would ask for a referral, basically. And so I may not be able to make that video and send the email the day before because maybe I'm on appointments or maybe I'm on holidays or something. So at the beginning of every week, we can schedule out all of our videos for that week using the BombBomb tool. The Boomerang tool. And Boomerang has a reoccurring feature. So I could send an email today and it would reoccur based on what I said. So I could say, send this email to this person every 11 months. And every 11 months, it would then send them the email. So a good example of that would be if you have a home that's closing, you would email that client all the paperwork for it. Well, I would send them that email, and then I would say, hey, Marianne, see attached, it's all the paperwork for the deal that we did in case you need it for a mortgage, refinancing, or insurance. Anyways, I'm always here for you for your real estate needs. And then it would have all of her attachments. Well, imagine if every year for the next 4 or 5 years she got that the month before her mortgage renewal. There's a good chance on year 3 and year 4 she'll just reply back to that email and be like, "Oh yeah, we're thinking of moving." It's like the best drip plan that you can put a person on. And Boomerang for Gmail is $5 a month. So there's like 3 tools I would not do business without. My database is one. Boomerang for Gmail is another one. And the third one is a program called BombBomb. But Boomerang for Gmail, awesome. I use it every day. Every day I use that tool.
It's huge. Like, I don't quite use it every day, but pretty close. It's just a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
The other great thing about automating our, especially like lead nurturing, lead management, is welcome messages. So when someone opts in on your website, opts into anything you do, it's great to have a series of welcome messages that automatically go out to them, especially because you can't always get a hold of someone right away. Maybe your schedules aren't matched up. Maybe they're just not picking up their phone. But what you can do, so as an example, someone registers on your property for more information about, or someone registers on your website with more information about a property, you can automatically now send them a series of welcome messages. But because you know that they're, probably a buyer because they're registering about a property, you can send them buyer-related welcome messages. So you can be like, here's day 1, a little bit of information about how the site works. Day 2, the importance of hiring or getting a home inspection. Day 3, the importance of getting pre-approved. Day 4, the importance of hiring an agent. And you can kind of walk through this process of showing your value by giving them that information right away. So when you do finally talk to them and get a hold of them, they've gotten a lot of value from you already.
This is delivered by email.
Yeah. You could also technically set it up probably over like text messages, but then it'd have to link to something else as well.
Something on Zapier would do texting.
Yeah. There's a lot of tools like even AgileCRM, the one we mentioned before, you could set up a campaign that did this over text message.
Oh, right in Agile. I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah, you just have to set up the integration with Twilio, which is just another automated text service. And that's like the same texting service that like Uber uses to tell you your car's arriving. So it's pretty reliable.
Cool.
Yeah. And it's cool too, as I mentioned briefly, about segmented ones. And this is where, depending on what people do, you can change the messages they get. So, if they're clicking on something buyer related, you can send them buyer stuff. If they're clicking something seller related, you can send them a seller. Or you can do the other way of like, okay, I sent them an email. Did they click on the link in the email? No. Send them this email. Or add this score to them, or add this note, or tell me to do this. If they did, add this score, tell me to do this, send this. And it's a big style of, if they do this, then do this with the marketing. And what you're doing there is, this works if you have a large volume of leads, you won't have time to, if you're getting 300 leads a month, you don't have time to follow up with every single one necessarily. So what you can do instead is let your automation sort out which ones are kind of the most important to talk to right now based on the actions they're taking, which ones aren't that important to follow up with right away, and it's going to let you essentially rank which ones are the important ones to follow up with today. And that's what's great about segmenting and using those types of automation.
So that is definitely an example of a more advanced.
Yes.
Yeah.
Some not so advanced, but slightly more than just your basic one would be like, it's called a mail merge. This works really well in something like MailChimp, where you can just be like, dear, first name, last name, and then it goes to the rest of them. Most of your CRMs already would have this type of thing built in, or whatever email provider you're using, where you can send it out to a lot of people and it says dear, and you can automatically put their first name in. Again, it's a little thing that can save you a lot of time instead of having to manually personalize every single email, because email almost always performs way better when it's personalized. And there's the odd time it doesn't always work out, because like think about the ones where someone submits a lead as a fake name that's either inappropriate,
and then a mail merge is like
joke.
Something inappropriate.
Yeah, and you'd be like, dear, something I can't repeat in polite company, and then it's the rest of your email. So like to them it ends up being kind of funny, but I mean if they're putting that as their name anyways, you probably didn't have a great shot at converting them.
Yeah, totally. So question, somebody says, what was the text message service you said?
So there's a tool called Twilio, and that...
Spell that for them?
Twilio.
Okay.
That's
Cool.
like what most, so like with them, you don't just use Twilio, it integrates with other things like AgileCRM or other tools. But it's basically like the best product on the market for integrating with whatever you're doing. So like most CRMs actually that you see that offer like texting, it's generally integrated with Twilio. It's one of the biggest players on the market.
Nice. Okay, and I think is Shihab on? Shoot, he's not. Okay, after this webinar, when we're done, if anybody wants to stick around, there's I found a company that does like 100 text messages a month for free or something.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, and the agents probably wouldn't go over. I just don't know the name. I'll pull it up at the end of this webinar when we're not on your screen. So remind me of that. This screenshot that you have where it's pointing out the mail merging, I first discovered this, oh man, in like 2009 or 8 or something like that. I had Top Producer was the database I used at that time. And I did a mass email to the entire database. But before we did the mass email, we made sure to go through and add the city that everybody lived in their address. So we may not have had their address, like their home address, like the street and the number, but I knew what city they were in. So what I did was we went through our entire database and added the city to everybody in it. Then I did a mass email using this mail merge. So it said, hey, first name, and it would like populate their first name. I just want to let you know that and then it would populate the city. So that the Oshawa, Whitby, Pickering, Ajax, and it would mail merge the right city for that person. House values have changed. If you're interested in what the homes are selling for, just let me know. Or if you know anybody who's thinking of selling, because we're definitely looking for more listings. Sent out a mass email to like 800 people. I don't know what the number was, maybe like 20 or something, actually replied back looking for more information and intrigued. But because I had their name and I had their city in the one line, it was like they totally thought I typed the message out just for them. But really, we blasted it out to like hundreds of people.
There's some really
powerful.
Cool things to do there, especially if you work in multiple markets or like you're in an area that has a lot of different names for it. So like for instance, like landing pages, you can even do like a dynamic landing page. We did this one for a home value ad one time where whichever city you are in, the landing page would change. So it'd say like either find out what your Toronto home is worth. But if you were then in Ottawa, I'd say find out what your Ottawa home is worth. If you're in Dallas, find out what your Dallas home is worth. Like it would just change based on your location. So it was a really cool way for someone, depending on where they were, to make sure it's always personalized to that person.
It's so important. With people are like goldfish. They don't have the attention span. You got to be like within seconds, strike them as to whether or not there's a benefit to them reading more.
Exactly. And
so if you can add their name, the name is the basic one, but if you could add like other information, like I just did with the city, it just like increases the chance that somebody will reach out.
Yeah, anytime you can make it personal, whether it's where they live or their name or something like that, you'll find that it works really well. The next part of automation is the customer experience side of it. And this is where you can really make the client experience a lot better. So you can send emails and reminders and do all these things that provide a lot of value to the client. And I'm sure you guys can think of like, what kind of things are you doing for your client experience that's the same every time? You can automate quite a bit of that just to make sure everything's consistent and looks good. And it doesn't have to be directly client facing either. It could be, you get a new listing, it automatically sends a note to the photographer and the sign guy and different things like that with all the information. So instead of you having to manually go call them every time and organize it, it could be something that happens automatically. So some of the potential automations you can look here. So automatically notifying of significant events. So this is an example through BombBomb. But I know some who what they'll do is if they know there's a closing coming up, they will say, hey, they'll have a video that's pre-made being like, hey, your home's closing in a week. Here's what you need to know. Here's what you should be doing this week. Here's what you need to get in order. Because that's the same for every client, basically. You can record that once. You just got to make sure it's somewhere that's not outside. So if there's like snow and there's not summer, They're not getting an email with a bunch of snow in it.
Yeah.
And then I'd also recommend updating those videos if you get a haircut or something significant changes about your appearance. It's always better to make sure the videos look up to date so it seems more personalized. But even if you have to do this once a quarter and update it, that's still going to save you way more time than doing that manually every single time. So any significant event that's the same every time, you can build these workflows in that automatically send them out for you. Same with like congratulating them on the day they close. You could have like a closing day video that automatically goes out maybe like right away in the morning of like, how's this day going to go? And then obviously you'll probably follow up with your clients later on in person, but at least this way you're getting them right at the beginning of the day, things like that. So many different events that you can notify someone of.
We had a bunch of video open house expectations, so we reminded them that they should actually leave the property, that and we went through like the process of like what they should do and what they shouldn't do and what to expect, and that will follow up. A brand new listing, so we would make a video telling the client like agents are going to come through, they're going to leave their business card, blah blah blah. So we would like make an onboarding video to explain the process of whatever that consumer is going through at that moment.
Yeah, so there's a lot of like things you can customize it. Like it's obviously because of its video, there's only so much you can customize, especially if you're on it. But it's still a great one.
There's a question about how does video automatically put data in it, and so video doesn't put data in the video automatically. So that's why he was saying leave it kind of like generic, where you wouldn't say names specifically, and you would like not be standing outside because the season changes. So in this example, what we're talking about would be to make a video that you can use over and over and over and over and over again.
Yeah. If you're doing something like closing on the homes, just remember that these are going out in case something happens and a home doesn't close. Then you send them a congratulations, your house closed video. Just make sure you're paying attention and you know to go and change it if something like that comes up. Because I've certainly seen that where people have used automation and there's been issues like that where they weren't situation like on the ground changed and they had to adjust and they did not.
Yeah.
We've mentioned this before, but again, new listing notifications, again, just an easier way to make someone's life a little bit easier, but we talked about that already, so we won't go really back into that, but just kind of remind you this is a great way to improve the customer experience. And then the relationships with past clients is another great one for this, because like a lot of them you're not touching as often. It's a great way to remind you about it. So for instance, you can set it once. So again, with Boomerang, you can actually set it up so that it sends later. AgileCRM also will integrate and do like a send later feature, but I find that Boomerang's better for this particular one. So we're like, okay, set it.
What's awesome about Boomerang is that it's very organic and fluid. Like with Agile and Top Producer and any of the other databases, it's kind of like very static, where it's like either on or off. But with Boomerang, it kind of, you can go with the flow with you and that client.
Yeah, I agree. Like it's for what it does, because this is essentially all that they do. They've done a better job with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I'd recommend it if you can test it out to get it, put it into your Gmail, and go from there. Annual home value offer. This has been a great way to keep in touch with past clients, I've found, where you do something like every year on the anniversary of their home, just say, hey, home values, it's been another year in your home. If you want to find out what it's worth, we're happy to come by and give you a free home evaluation. Just reply to this email and let us know. You can set that up to go out automatically on the anniversary every single year. So you spend 5 minutes one time, and now at the very least, you have an annual touch with every past client you've ever had.
We even took it a step further, where we would call the people on our database and then set them up to get notified of all the new listings around their home. So not just the solds, but all the like future, current and future listings. And it was like a way for them to do the window shopping and nosy neighbor kind of snooping type of thing. And our system, our MLS, had a 3-month rule that people could be on it for 3 months, and then you'd have to reset them up. So what that enabled us was to actually have a more frequent touch point, where every 3 months we would just call the people, and even if they didn't answer the phone, we just left a voicemail and say, hey, yeah, just let you know, we're keeping you on that plan. It expires every 3 months. You don't have to reach back to me, but anyways, I'm here for you if you do. And it's just like a simple touch, so simple, but they're hearing your voice. They're either getting a Facebook message or an email, and if nothing else, every week they're getting all the listings that are hitting around their home, and it's got all your information in it. So it's like the best real estate drip that you could think of. I mean, not to knock on recipe cards and stuff like that, but like if you can actually give people a real estate related drip, it's way more impactful of sharing who you are and what you do.
I agree. Other great ones, home care reminders. I mean, I know personally I often forget to change my air filter, so you can just send out a little one and you can I like ones like this to actually ask the people before if they want these set up, because not everybody needs these reminders. But like when I bought my first one before I was an agent, if my agent had offered this, I probably would have been, yeah, sure, send those. Would have been great just as like a regular reminder to do these little things that I'd often forget to do. So little things like that, great way to do it, because it's all, again, related to the house, so keep that top of mind that you and their home are together. It's also great for soliciting feedback at the end of a sale, so you can set it up so that once you move someone in your CRM from, client to closed past client, it can automatically send them emails soliciting feedback from them, gathering testimonials, things like that. That's not something you should necessarily have to do every single time, so there's a great way to build that up for you and start getting that database of testimonials built up, and then get the feedback just to improve what you're doing. It's always better to improve kind of the service you provide, and when you can kind of automate getting that feedback, and that way too, people, it feels to them like they're more, like, to me, feedback, when you want honest feedback, it's sometimes almost better to make it automated, because if they know it's going to you personally, I find that they're less likely to be honest. If they Sorry, go ahead.
We had it come from our office, and it was like a form from the office that was online, an online form, but it was branded as the office, and it came from the office, and it asked like 4 questions, like how did we do, what could we improve on, and asked for referrals. And we got more when it came from the office than if I was to just send it. Then it looked like they're not going to tell me the truth. They're not going to say like, Danny can't spell and he smells funny. They're not going to say stuff like that. They're going to like, oh yeah, he was great, we loved him, and then deep down they're like, oh, never working with that guy again, right? But if it comes from the office, there's a higher chance that they'll tell the truth.
Yeah, which is obviously the best thing for your business. Like, yeah, you might not get a testimonial out of it, but at least now you know. Where can I improve, or maybe even make it up in the relationship?
For that form, if anybody's listening, they're like, oh, I want to do that. We just use like a Google Doc, Google form. Yeah. You can just Google search Google Forms and make your own free form, and then that can be sent from the office however your system would do that. Yeah,
there's like a ton of paid tools, but there's no need for them. Like Google Forms more than is good enough for the job that you're doing. I still use it in mine all the time. So Danny mentioned this too, like what's happening on their street. People love that, and it's such an easy thing to set up in most MLS systems, where you literally just say, anytime a house comes up on this street, send it to them. Again, great way to keep in touch with people, and again, provide them a little value, because everyone's curious if a house goes up on their street, what it's worth, what does it look like inside, all that stuff. So you can easily set this up for everybody after they become a past client. Just an easy way again.
If people don't get anything else from this webinar, it should be this. Like, everybody in your database should be at least called and offered this opportunity that they can get updated on all the homes that match their street, right? So you just set them up as a buyer in your MLS, and their criteria is the radius around their house. And for the next 90 days, I have a game plan. Our group coaching website, there's a game plan in there. You can download it. If you can't find it, email me, and just use that as a reason to be calling people. This right here is like, you're going to get business from it in the next month.
Yeah, it's incredibly valuable, and it's just such an easy way to talk to your database and offering them something. Yep. And you very rarely say no.
Even to reconnect with people that you haven't talked to in a while, because that's a big fear.
Yeah, generally I find the only time someone says no to this is because they already have it set up with another agent.
Yeah.
Which is also good to know from your end if they're talking with someone else. I'll let you talk about this one because obviously you use it more than I do. But send out cards is another great kind of automated way to build the relationship with clients, past clients, and really anyone.
Yeah, so I avoided send out cards like the plague because it's a multi-level marketing company, and I had so many people like telling me to sign up under them, and I'm like, I don't want anything to do with this for two reasons. One, you couldn't automate it, and two, it was all branded as send out cards like to become a reseller, and I didn't want nothing to do with that. Well, I recently, like last year or 2 years ago, or maybe longer, I don't know, they made a change where you can automate it and you can remove the branding. So I was like, oh, well, that's interesting. So now if a person fills in a form on our house value page, it will automatically drop ship them. Send out cards, it sends cards, but it can send posters, packaging, and gifts automatically. So if a person fills in our house value form, it will automatically drop ship them like our pre-listing presentation and all of our contact information. That way, even if we call and email and they don't answer, at least they got something in the mail delivered to their house with our information. You can't automate it through Zapier just yet, but they are working on that. But they also told me they were working on it last Christmas, so I'm not holding my breath because we're almost approaching another Christmas. So I can automate it because I use Infusionsoft, but Infusionsoft is really expensive, so it's not really feasible. But you can still do everything from your phone, so you can drop ship your listing presentation or a handwritten thank you card right from your phone. So it's pretty automated, but it's not like set it and forget it. You still would have to like enter in the person's address and hit submit type of thing. But send out cards is amazing. I'm going to do a whole webinar on send out cards, but I'm waiting for them to integrate with Zapier before I do that.
Makes sense.
But if you want to watch the video, that URL right there, socreferrals.com, shows a video of how I use it, if anybody wants to watch later.
The next part that's good for automating is like the different operations you have, the processes and the systems in your business. Obviously, you have to know what your systems are in your business and not just kind of it's in your head. But it's a great way to automate so many of those little tasks. And these are always the ones that gives you more time because so many of the systems in your business or processes you're using are just, a lot of them are unnecessary from like a time spent perspective. So when you think about the systems in your business, if you get a new listing for you, is it written down everything that happens? Like I know actually, Dan, you just launched like all those new checklists.
Yeah, so the group coaching members haven't seen that yet because it was just part of my Facebook. But for anybody watching this video, as the group coaching members, I've created checklists. So a just listed checklist, a just sold checklist, a new buyer checklist, and a buyer closed checklist, and an open house checklist. And it's not from the consumer's point of view, it's from the agent. So a just listed checklist would be like install the lockbox, order up the sign, book the home stager, do all the paperwork. So it's like the system for the agent. So I'm going to be putting that in the group coaching. I think this month we're going to include that as a free download for everybody so that you guys can download those checklists. One is a poster that goes on your wall, and the other one is a piece of paper that staples to your file. So either way you want to operate, and you can edit these checklists as well.
Yeah, and what we can show you too is like a lot of what's in those, like the little tiny tasks, can easily be automated too.
Oh yeah, because the checklist for like the buyer close is it asks for a referral, so we could have the email automatically go out asking for that referral with a video. There's so much of it can be automated. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Simplest ones right now are like e-signatures. There's a lot of them that do that type of automation. Like you think of DocuSign, you put the signature, it automates telling them where to sign. Make sure you don't miss anything. Like those are very basic automations, but they work really well. And for those that are in Ontario, like DealTap's coming out with one that's like automating a ton of that prospect, and eventually they'll launch in other parts of Canada and the US as well. But they're working on essentially automating the entire offer creation process with you just putting like the little details about that individual property. So there's a lot coming from a tech perspective that it's going to automate even more for you. Saving attachments to Dropbox, like you mentioned, like Zapier, or you could use ifttt.com. Anytime an email comes in, it could just save the attachments to Dropbox for you. So if you have to keep a record of all your offers, easy way to do it. Creating pre-made templates in Evernote, another great way to do it. You can easily have all these templates pre-made, and it's just a simple like 1 or 2 buttons, everything set up. Like so those checklists Danny made can easily work in Evernote as well, depending on how you personally use it.
Oh, well, the checklist, we typed it up so people can import them into, like, Top Producer has a built-in checklist, so you can customize checklists right in your database so that when you get a new listing, you just trigger that, and then it's built right into the client's profile.
Perfect. So now we'll kind of go into a bit of the different tools that we use. So big ones that I really like, Schedule Once, Calendly, AgileCRM also has one built in. But basically these are ones, and this is why it's important to use something like Gmail for Business, is it integrates with your calendar, and you could send someone a link and then they can actually see when you're available and book an appointment. So instead of you guys going back and forth, hey, I'm free this time, are you free? No, okay, how about this time? How about this time? You just send them the link, it opens up and shows when you're available, and they can say, okay, I need 15 minutes, half an hour, book, and you're good to go. So it helps you manage your schedule by giving people access to when you're available. And you can set, okay, I don't want any appointments after 5 p.m. I don't want any appointments after 6 p.m. Or maybe it's just like, okay, every Tuesday I want to be done at 5. And I want a 15-minute buffer between every appointment. You can put in those rules, and it'll help manage your calendar going forward.
And it works time zone based. I use this tool. I love it. We used to work as a big team, 16, 18 listings carrying at a time, and we had one primary listing agent. And so whenever any of the other agents ended up getting a seller lead that wanted to book a free, like a consultation, we all had used this Schedule Once where we could see the listing agent's schedule, and we would just block in the time without even talking to the agent because it showed us the openings. So we could book the time as a team without even talking to the agent, which was awesome. And for me, all my coaching clients, it's bookdan.me is the URL, and that shows all my clients my calendar, and they can block off coaching calls without even talking to me in their time zone because we're different time zones a lot of the time. I love this tool, and it's cheap. It's like $7 a month.
Yeah, it's worth. This is one that's worth every penny. And the Agile one is just free included with the actual program itself too.
This one, especially managers on this call, if there's any managers listening to this, you can get your own schedule once, and then you get a URL from GoDaddy for $10 and link the two, and then all of your agents can see your calendar and openings, and you could do like phone consultations with them and whatever. It's awesome. Yeah,
I love this tool. The only important thing when you're using a tool like this is you have to be really careful about actually inputting all your appointments into your calendar. Because then it throws everything off. If someone books it, then you have to like follow up and be like, oh no, I actually got booked that time. So you got to make sure your calendar's up to date.
Well, my calendar, because it's Google, syncs somehow. And say I add something on my calendar today and you're on the link, it will update on the link and show that that's no longer available.
No, I mean more like, you get a phone call and someone says, hey, can we do Tuesday at 2? You say yes, make sure you go in and do that.
Oh, yeah, you got to actually add it. Yeah.
I've seen quite a few who like set this up for and then forgot to manually update their calendar a few times, and it kind of threw everything off. But that's just part of the fun of keeping everything organized the right way. We talked about this again before, but Boomerang for Gmail. This is one that's obviously you have to have Gmail for it or Gmail for Business, but if you do, this is like a must download. It's worth the free one's amazing, and even if you have to pay for the upgraded one, which most of you probably wouldn't, it's worth every penny.
They have a free one?
I think so, or at least they did for a while. When I got it, it was free.
I've been paying $5 this whole time.
There you go. I think you're only allowed so many scheduled messages per month.
Yeah.
So
right. Okay. Yeah, I burned through that.
Yeah, I think once you start becoming a heavy user, that's when you have to start paying. But if you're just like seeing if it works for you, it's definitely, or they at least did have a free one. But
I want to do a mini webinar. I'll do like a 10-minute webinar on setting it up and exactly how I use it.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea.
Yeah.
BombBomb, again, I'll let you cover this one because you, I think, use it even more than I do. So I know this is a great one for you to talk about.
We have a full webinar already in the group coaching program. So if you guys log in, there's a whole webinar on BombBomb and how to use it. But essentially, it allows you to easily create video and send it. So if you've ever made a video on your phone and tried sharing that with somebody, it's like the file is too big, the quality is diminished, it's too large of an attachment to send. With BombBomb, it records video directly from your phone or computer or tablet and then saves the video automatically in the cloud without having to download, edit, and add it as an attachment. It's just like make the video and then whose email do you want it to go to, and it will send it for you.
Yeah. Upwork, it's a great one where maybe there's a task that can't necessarily be technically automated, but you could hire someone for, $5-10 an hour to go do that for you. And that's what Upwork's great for, is for outsourcing specific tasks that you have. I use it a little bit. I know Danny uses it a lot too. But it's another great tool just for kind of automating some of the things that maybe aren't technically automated, but they're...
Yeah. Well, I mean, you get a brand new listing. You got to get feature sheets, posters, social media. You got to get all this stuff designed. You could just outsource that on Upwork. So Upwork is like, you could kind of like automate certain tasks that you have to create. So for me, an example is I get a whole bunch of emails because if you have a website and you ask for name, phone number, and email, you'll get less people registering. But if you only ask the email, you'll get more. So I have this thing where it's getting all these emails, and then I have a virtual assistant who takes all of those emails and then searches them online on Google to find out what the name of the person is, and then he updates the database in the back end. But Upwork is amazing for people leverage for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I use it relatively frequently. Trello is a great one, especially if you're working with kind of the virtual assistants. It's just an amazing way to organize, and it integrates with a ton of tools as well, and it can help automate a bunch of little tasks, and you can create to-do lists on there. I personally love Trello.
That's what I want to do. So my next session I do for this group is going to be, it was going to be on the checklist, but I want to do a checklist and Trello, and I'll build the checklist in Trello and then save it as a template for them.
Perfect.
Cool.
That works.
Trello is awesome. I use Trello. Trello is my main tool for communicating with the team of what we're doing. So we'll do a whole webinar coming up on it, but basically if you use Dropbox, it's like a folder, and then you have a folder within a folder within more folders, and it kind of is like you can lose stuff. But with Trello, it's project based, so you can have a project, so new listing 123 Street. Well, when you open up that file, you can actually attach photos, videos, checklists, notes, contact information. You can assign tasks to your team, and it's all in that one box, if that's what you want to call it. And it's way better than like Dropbox, OneDrive, and all that other stuff. Trello is amazing, and it's free. It's totally free, and the only reason people pay is for gimmicky stuff like stickers and pictures, which
well, there's some other ones you can do, which I think is more for like software engineers who use it, where it's like cards will actually start disappearing if they've been left alone too long, and like there's all these other little things. But yeah, they're mostly just gimmicky functions that kind of cool, but you don't need them.
Yeah, most agents are cool with the free one for sure.
Yeah. Evernote, we've talked about again. Like Evernote's just an amazing tool for a lot of things. I mean, it doesn't specifically do a lot of automations, but it integrates with tools that do automation. So Zapier, for instance, integrates a ton with Evernote. So like anything you do could be set up as like a note in Evernote. So like anytime you get an email, it's important. For me, what I do, if I star an email, it automatically saves it to Evernote. And that way, keep my inbox a little clear, but then I have it saved forever on the cloud in my Evernote. So for me, it's a lot of little things like that is great because I just dump a ton of stuff into my Evernote. It's essentially become like my brain. Everything's there.
So a good example would be when you get an email in your Gmail and it's like a receipt, you could just tag that as taxes 2000, whatever year you're currently in watching this video, and then it would add it to your tax folder in Evernote, and then you could have that for your accountant.
Yeah, no, from an accounting perspective, this will be like one of your accountant's favorite tools if you use it properly.
Yeah.
Slack, this is more team communication. So if it's just you, this is probably not one that you specifically need, but it's still a great tool for team communication. And a lot of the tools like Trello will integrate with your Slack. Evernote can integrate. Google Drive can Evernote. Pardon?
What does it do?
So it's mainly around the idea of team communication. So like for me internally, it's replaced email for our team. And we have a lot of tools that actually integrate with it. So like we have a Facebook ad reporting tool integrates with Slack that will automatically tell us in a channel on Slack all the campaign performance of our Facebook ads. And we can even set it to be like, okay, anytime the lead cost gets above $10 a lead, send us a note so we know to go see what happened. We can do a lot of things like that. We have a graphic design service where we can automatically put in requests from Slack instead of having to go and email the people. So there's a lot of like tools and bots that integrate with it. Trello integrates, so anytime someone like moves a card or completes a card, like a to-do list, it automatically updates the appropriate channel in Slack for us. So it keeps everyone kind of communicating and on point together. But if you don't have like a team, it's not necessarily as important. But it's more for team communication. Like if I was a brokerage for the managers, like I would have a Slack channel for the whole brokerage that every agent could be on. So it would be a great way to stay in touch with everybody.
That sounds like a whole other webinar we could do on that.
Oh, you definitely could. It's a great tool.
Cool.
Leads Bridge. If you're doing Facebook lead ads, to me this is a must-have. Because basically what happens like a Facebook lead ad, what's great about them is it eliminates the need for a landing page. And a form will just pop up on Facebook and say pre-filled in, name, email, phone number. But it's pre-filled in with the information they already gave you. Then they hit submit. If you don't have a tool like Leads Bridge, that just goes into the back end of your Facebook page, but it doesn't actually notify you of the lead or send the lead to you or do anything with it. You have to manually go in and pull it out. A tool like Leads Bridge will automatically email you when all those leads come in. So it's a really simple process when you do it. It also integrates with like Contactually, Real Estate Webmasters, and a few other programs. But again, it's just a great tool for automating the Facebook lead ad process and actually getting your leads on time.
So there's a cost in that. I don't know how much it costs per month, but I would say try your Facebook ads and get leads first before you pay for this. Because if you're not getting enough leads and you're not going to do it monthly, you wouldn't need this as a monthly program. Because the only function this thing performs is taking the email leads that you get from Facebook and then actually alerting you to it.
Yeah, and if you're doing lead ads right, it's actually, especially if you have a listing, like lead ads on a listing, we can easily sometimes get cost of lead between like $1 and $3.
Which is crazy because some people are at like $3 a click.
Oh, exactly. That's why it's such a like lead ads work really well for getting a lot of leads, but you still need something that delivers those leads to you.
Cool. This is on the radar. We're going to do that as a group coaching call. The lead ads, we're going to do that. It's scheduled, and I'm going to show them that particular product. And you don't have to use Lead Bridge because you can also do it with Zapier. It's just a little more technical, but it's free.
Yeah. Yeah, Zapier also has a lead ad functionality, but again, it's a little bit more work and not as many like integrations with CRMs, like real estate specific ones. Like they have a lot of real estate specific stuff in there.
I know we're 4 minutes past, so anybody who has to go, just leave your question and email. We're going to keep going, but leave your question and email, and I'll be sure to get back to you if you have to leave, but you still had questions. And
we're almost done too, so it's not too much longer.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we already talked again about Zapier. Just put it again as a reminder, and especially with the link there to go get your 100 free zaps a month. It's a great tool, and it really helps you automate a ton of tasks, because the problem with a lot of tools that you're using is they don't integrate with each other directly. So Zapier essentially acts as a bridge between all these different tools that don't talk to each other. So they all talk to Zapier, and then Zapier is able to connect them together and let them chat. So it's just this really good tool to connect things.
If I'm ever looking at getting a product, like say I need a database, a CRM, I'll go to Zapier to see if that's in there, and if it's not, I'll look for their competitor who is. Zapier is my number one choice for deciding on if I'm going to get software or not, is if it works with Zapier.
That's an important consideration when you're getting any type of software, is does it integrate with the tools I'm already using? So here's just some examples of some of the automations you could even do. And the list is endless. Like subscribe Facebook lead to a MailChimp list, post calendar events to your Slack channel, put form entries into a Google spreadsheet, all these different, like there's an endless list. Like if you even just went to the Zapier website, you just see a list of all these different potential ones. And then you can even sometimes create your own custom ones as well. Like I have a little one on mine. It's just every New Year's Eve at midnight, it automatically just says Happy New Year. And every year my wife forgets, and she's sitting with me being like, how did you just tweet? You don't even have your phone on you. And it's just like a little thing. It happens every year. She always forgets.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Some of the other tools we use, AgileCRM, we mentioned that one a lot. It's great because it's, for the most part, free for a lot of the basic stuff. I mean, obviously they have some paid ones, but even their paid ones are like $8.99 a month for how most of you would need to use it. MailChimp has an upgrade that includes automations. Lead Pages does a lot of landing page and automation in there. And it integrates, because they own it, Drip, which is like an email marketing automation. So it's kind of like MailChimp on steroids. And then Infusionsoft would be like Drip on steroids. It has even more automations, but I know for Infusionsoft, it's actually a pretty confusing thing to use unless you have someone helping you out early on while you learn it.
It's like $2,000 setup fee, and you got to go to university to figure it out.
Yeah, but I mean, to get it set up, it's amazing what it can do. And then HubSpot, similarly, like it's not quite as confusing as Infusionsoft, and it's great if you do content marketing, but they have a lot of automations built in as well. So it depends on like what you need, which one might necessarily be right for you.
For anybody staring at the screen and paralyzed with choice, just look at AgileCRM. That one will be the main. Yeah, it'll do everything that all of them do.
Exactly, and cheaper.
Yeah.
So that's the webinar.
Cool. Okay, awesome. Well, I don't see anybody asking questions. If they do, I'll let you know. Perfect, Andrew. Well, when I send out this email, I'll be sure to include your information in case people want to reach out to you. What's the best way for them to get you the website? JustSellHomes.com?
Yep. .com or .ca both come to my site, so either one works. Reach out to me on there, reach out to me on Facebook, email, andrew@justsellhomes.com. I'll answer them all.
Cool. That was a good session. I really appreciate you. I appreciate everybody being with us. And spoiler alert, our next call is going to be on checklists and Trello combined. So I'll post about that. These videos usually take 48 hours to get up online, and I'll notify you all when that happens. Thanks, everyone. Okay. Thanks, Andrew.
No problem. Anytime.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey, if you want to close more real estate transactions, get more buyer leads, and get more seller leads, click this button right here. It'll take you to our real estate group coaching page. Also, if you like this video and want more, you can subscribe by pressing this, or you can check out some of my past videos here. Enjoy!